The training room was dark and silent. Only the soft blue light of the holoscreen touched the faces of young alien cadets. Rows of eyes stared ahead, wide and focused, waiting for their commander to speak. Commander Vec stood tall in front of them, his voice deep and steady. "Today, we learn about the most dangerous creatures ever known," he said. "The species that almost ended the galactic war with nothing but their minds and willpower." He pressed a button on the control pad. A glowing image appeared behind him, a human face. Some cadets gasped, others laughed nervously. One whispered, "They look so weak." Vec turned sharply toward the voice. "Do not be fooled by appearance," he said coldly. "If you ever meet one, do not assume survival." He pointed at the image. "This is a human," he said. "They were small, fragile, emotional, but they were unstoppable." He changed the slide. Now the human was in battle armor, eyes glowing red. "Learn how to spot one before it's too late," he continued. "Their calm is false, their kindness is a mask, and their silence is a warning." The cadets scribbled notes. The room echoed with the sound of data chips and stylus pens. But one cadet didn't move. In the back row sat Lyra. Quiet, still, and watching. Her eyes were bright, almost too bright. Her breathing slow, her posture perfect. She looked different. Vec's tone grew darker. "There are a few key signs," he said. "1, they make eye contact and hold it longer than any species can tolerate. 2, their heart rate remains calm even in danger. 3, they smile, right before the moment of attack." The room went silent again. Every cadet stared at the holoscreen where the human smiled in the image. It felt cold, real, and alive. Then Vec turned. He looked at the class. "Now," he said, "what would you do if you saw one?" Hands rose quickly. One cadet shouted, "Report to command." Another said, "Call for backup." Vec nodded. "Good," he said. "And what if the human is already here among you?" The room grew still. No one laughed this time. The air felt heavy. Some cadets shifted in their seats. Unsure if this was a test, then a hand rose slowly. From the last row, Vec froze mid-sentence. The scanners blinked red for a second, then green, then red again. Every head turned toward the back. It was Lyra, her expression calm, her voice quiet but clear. "I think I can answer that," she said. Vec frowned. "Speak." "Cadet Lyra," he said. She stood up slowly, her shadow stretching across the floor. Her uniform looked ordinary, but her presence wasn't, she said. "If a human was among us, you wouldn't notice at first, because you'd be looking for a monster. And humans never look like monsters, until it's too late." The room went silent again. Vec narrowed his eyes. "Interesting answer," he said. "But tell me, cadet, how do you know that?" Lyra tilted her head slightly. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Because you've been teaching one all along," she said. The holoscreen flickered. Every sensor in the room suddenly flashed red. The biometric scanner read impossible numbers, heart rate stable, body temperature human. Vec stepped back, his voice shaking. "Security," he whispered. "Lockdown." But the doors didn't move. Lyra raised her hand again, this time not to speak. She pressed her palm against the holodesk, and the system obeyed her. Lights dimmed, alarms stopped, silence filled the hall. Every cadet looked terrified. Vec swallowed hard. "What are you?" he asked. Lyra's eyes glowed softly in the blue light. "I'm what you were told to fear," she said, "but also what you need the most." One cadet tried to stand. His chair clattered. Lyra didn't move. The room lights flickered again, showing flashes of war. Old battle records playing by themselves. Explosions, fire, human soldiers fighting against alien armies. The cadets watched in shock as the system displayed classified footage. Vec shouted, "Stop it! That data is restricted!" Lyra whispered, "Not to me." She stepped closer to the screen, touching the image of a human soldier. "Do you know why they feared us?" she asked quietly. "Because humans never surrendered. Even when we lost everything," her voice grew softer, but sharper. "We learned how to fight pain with hope. Fear with courage." Vec couldn't speak. His training, his orders, his beliefs, all collapsing. He had been teaching his students how to spot a human threat, but now one stood right in front of him. Calm and unarmed and still, everyone in the room felt powerless. Lyra looked at him one last time. "You taught them fear," she said, "but not truth." Then she turned toward the exit. The door, which was locked moments ago, opened for her silently. No one dared to move, no one even breathed. Vec finally whispered, "Where are you going?" Lyra stopped at the doorway without looking back, she said, "To remind the galaxy what it means to be human." And then she was gone. The alarm started again, red lights flashing across the hall. But no one moved. Every cadet just sat frozen, realizing, and the lesson was real, the human threat wasn't a story. It was standing among them all along. The echo of alarms still filled the hall. Commander Vec stood frozen, staring at the empty doorway where Lyra had vanished. His mind couldn't understand what had just happened. For years he had taught how to spot a human threat, but no one ever told him what to do when one actually appeared. Within minutes, the security drones surrounded the academy. Blue lights flashed across every corridor. Students were ordered to their quarters, and every data panel was locked. Vec stood alone in the command room, replaying the footage of Lyra raising her hand. The sensors were clear. Her DNA, her body temperature, her pulse, all pointed to one impossible fact: a human. An officer entered quickly. "Commander, we've taken her into custody," he said. "She's being moved to the high-security division." Vec nodded slowly, his voice quiet. "Good. But keep her alive," the officer frowned. "Alive? She's a Class 1 threat." Vec looked at him. "Exactly, inside a metal transport cage." Lyra sat silently. Her wrists were bound by magnetic cuffs. She didn't resist, didn't speak. Two guards sat across from her, whispering nervously. "She doesn't look dangerous," one said. The other replied, "That's what they said before the siege of Orion." Lyra looked up, her calm voice breaking the silence. "Do you really believe everything they told you?" Both guards looked away, pretending not to hear. The transport ship landed on a remote military base, Sector 9 Research Division. It was hidden beneath an icy planet away from public eyes. The doors opened, releasing cold air and bright white lights. Dozens of scientists and officers waited to see the creature that shouldn't exist. Dr. Kale, head of biogenetic studies, approached first. He looked at Lyra with both fear and curiosity. "She's real," he whispered, "a true human." Vec, standing beside him, replied quietly, "And she's not our enemy. Not yet." Lyra was taken inside a glass-sealed chamber. Machines scanned her body from head to toe. Her heart rate stayed steady. Her eyes followed every movement around her. One scientist murmured, "No fear response?" "Even under threat," another said. "That's impossible. She's completely calm." Dr. Kale turned to Vec. "She's not reacting like a soldier," he said. "She's reacting like someone who already knows the outcome." Vec frowned. "What does that mean?" Kyle hesitated. "It means she's not afraid because she's seen worse than death." Vec walked toward the glass and spoke through the intercom. "Why didn't you run?" he asked. Lyra looked up slowly, her eyes clear and steady. "Because you would have chased me anyway," she said. "And besides, I wanted to see what you'd do when faced with the truth." Vec stayed silent. Lyra continued, "You've been teaching fear, not understanding. The truth is, humans were never the monsters." She paused, looking straight at him. "We were just the ones who didn't give up." Her words unsettled him. He turned away, trying to stay professional, but her calmness, her control, it reminded him of old battle stories, the ones the government tried to erase. Later that night, Vec entered his private quarters. He couldn't sleep. He opened a locked data drive labeled Confidential Human War Files. The hologram loaded, showing images of burning cities, fleets destroyed. He watched old reports. Subject: humanity. Status: extinct after War of Dominion. But one line caught his attention. One vessel escaped the Sol system. Destination unknown, he whispered to himself. So they survived. Suddenly his console beeped. An encrypted file appeared on his screen. It was titled Project Origin, for command eyes only. Vec hesitated, then opened it. Inside were old classified images, children being taken from destroyed human colonies, experiments labeled Integration Program. He scrolled further, and there it was, and Subject 47, Lyra. The report said, half-human genetic hybrid, created for behavioral study. Status: missing after incident on Arc Station 12. Vec's hands shook. She's not just a survivor, he whispered. She's the last experiment. He rushed back to the lab. Dr. Kale was still awake, analyzing data. Kale, Stop the scans, Vec said sharply. She's part of something we were never supposed to know about. Kale looked confused. What do you mean? Vec threw the file on the table. Project Origin, they made her Lyra. Hearing the voices through the intercom, smiled slightly. I told you, she said softly. You built your own fear. Kale looked at her through the glass. Lyra, who are you, really? Lyra stood, the light reflecting on her cuffs. I'm the reminder of what you tried to erase, she said. And the proof that humanity never truly dies. The alarm suddenly flashed red again. An incoming transmission interrupted them. An old Earth signal. It repeated one phrase in an ancient language. Project Phoenix, activation code required. The scientists panicked. Where is it coming from? One shouted. Kyle replied. It's from deep space uncharted zone. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering something under her breath. Vec asked, You understand that signal? Lyra nodded slowly. It's a call, she said. From home. Vec stared at her through the glass. You mean Earth? Lyra smiled. You call it that, she said. But we called it hope. Outside, the storm on the icy planet grew stronger. Lightning cracked across the sky. Lyra looked up as if she could hear it. For the first time, her calm expression faded. Replaced by something else. Purpose, she whispered. They think we're extinct. Then she looked directly at the camera and said, But extinction is just another word for waiting. The screen faded to black. And in the silence of the lab, Commander Vec finally understood. They weren't studying a threat. They were witnessing the return of humanity. The cold light of the lab never faded. Machines hummed in perfect rhythm, like a heartbeat made of metal. Lyra sat inside the glass chamber. Her wrists still bound, her eyes half closed. She wasn't asleep, she was waiting. Dr. Kale stood behind a control console, his fingers moving quickly over glowing screens. Run a neural scan, he ordered. The scanner arm moved over Lyra's head, sending thin blue lines of energy through her mind. Neural activity stable, said one assistant. No fear response detected, Kale frowned. Increase intensity. Lyra opened her eyes, calm and steady. Is this supposed to scare me? She asked. Kale didn't answer. He increased the signal again. Still, no change. Her pulse remained calm, her breathing soft and even. Commander Vec watched from behind the glass wall. He had seen many soldiers break under far less pressure. But this girl, this human whisperer, was made of something else. She's not resisting, Kale said. But her brainwaves are adapting to our system. Vec asked. Adapting how? Kale pointed at the readings. She's syncing with the frequency, as if her mind is learning the machine. The assistants exchanged worried looks. This is impossible, one whispered. Kale ignored him and pressed another command. A holographic image appeared, memories flashing like fragments of light. An old Earth city, a burning sky, soldiers running, a young girl crying. Lyra's expression didn't change, but one tear slid down her cheek. Vec leaned closer to the glass. Those are her memories, he said quietly. Kale nodded, or what's left of them. Suddenly, the monitors began to glitch, static crawling across the screens. Lyra looked straight into the main camera. Stop, she said softly. Kyle hesitated. Why? Because you're not ready to see the rest, she replied. The lights flickered, the machines shut down for a second. Then every screen showed a single phrase, Project Phoenix online. Kyle's hands froze. We didn't type that, he said. Lyra smiled faintly. You didn't need to. Security officers rushed in. Weapons drawn. Commander, containment breach detected, one shouted. But the glass chamber was intact. Lyra hadn't moved an inch. The energy around her seemed alive, like invisible fire dancing in the air. Vec raised his hand. Stand down, he ordered. His eyes never left Lyra. He wanted to understand her, not destroy her. Kale stared at the readings. Her body temperature is stable, but the energy output is rising, he said. It's like she's channeling something. Lyra opened her hands slowly. The cuffs around her wrists cracked and fell. No explosion, no violence, just quiet strength. I'm not your enemy, she said, but if you keep trying to break me, you'll break yourselves, Kale's voice trembled. What are you? Lyra looked up at him, her eyes glowing faintly blue. I'm what's left of humanity's promise, she said. The part of us that refuses to die. Vec stepped forward, his voice firm. Then prove it, he said. Show me something only a human can do. Lyra looked at the failing power systems. The flickering lights. She stood and touched the glass wall. Your reactor is unstable, she said. Kale laughed nervously. Impossible. It's protected by 8 failsafes. Lyra shook her head. Not anymore. Before they could react, a siren went off. Warning, core temperature rising, said the automated voice. Kale ran to the control panel. She's right. The fusion core is overloading, Vec shouted. Shut it down. It's not responding. Kale replied, panic in his voice. Lyra spoke calmly. Open the chamber. Vec looked at her. Why? Because I can fix it, she said. Or you can all watch your base explode. For a moment, no one moved, then Vec hit the emergency override. The glass lifted and Lyra stepped out. Her bare feet echoing softly on the cold metal floor, Kale whispered. If she's lying. She's not, Vec said. Lyra walked straight to the reactor control room. The heat was unbearable, sparks flying, alarms screaming. She placed her hand on the main console. Her skin glowed faintly, the metal pulsing under her touch. Human technology used emotion as a key, she said quietly. Something your kind never understood. Kale stared in disbelief. She's interfacing with the system without tools. The reactor's glow shifted from red to gold. Energy readings stabilized, alarms went silent. Lyra took a deep breath and stepped back. It's done, she said simply. Everyone stared at her, speechless. Kale whispered. She just saved the base. Vec walked closer. His voice low. You could have escaped, he said. Lyra looked at him. Escape to where? You still think I'm the threat, don't you? She asked. Vec hesitated. I don't know what to think. Lyra smiled faintly. That's the first honest thing you've said. Kyle spoke softly. Why help us? Lyra looked up at the ceiling, where faint stars were visible through the observation dome. Because once, she said, humans believed in saving others, even when they didn't deserve it. The lights of the facility slowly brightened again. The tension in the air faded, but Vec knew something had changed. This wasn't just about one girl anymore. Something much larger had begun, a spark in the dark. Later, when the systems were restored, Vec replayed the footage of Lyra touching the reactor. He paused the video at the moment the energy flared. There, hidden in the static, was an old human symbol. A burning phoenix. He whispered to himself, Project Phoenix. She's awakening it. Lyra sat quietly in her room again. Her cuffs gone, her eyes distant, she whispered softly to herself. One step closer, and somewhere, far across the galaxy, a deep signal answered back, awaiting the return. The night over Sector 9 was quiet again. Snow fell softly across the domed facility, glowing under the pale light of distant stars, but inside silence did not mean peace. Something had changed since Lyra touched the reactor. The machines no longer obeyed their makers, they obeyed her. Commander Vec sat in the observation room, staring at the data screens, every line of code. Every power log all showed the same strange anomaly. Human pattern detected, the console repeated again and again. He whispered to himself. She's rewriting our systems just by existing. Dr. Kale entered, holding a data pad filled with readings. She's stable, he said quietly. But her brain is working faster than any being we've ever recorded. Vec frowned. How much faster? Kale took a deep breath. About 40 times faster than the galactic norm. She's learning, adapting, and remembering. Vec turned toward the observation window. Lyra sat cross-legged in her glass room, her eyes closed, her breathing slow. She looked calm, but the air around her seemed alive, like invisible waves moving in rhythm. What is she remembering? Vec asked. Kale hesitated. You won't believe it. Before he could answer, the lights flickered, a deep hum echoed through the corridors. The screens went black, then filled with static. A voice spoke through the comms. Soft, mechanical, but unmistakably human. Project Phoenix, an activation request detected. Kyle dropped his datapad. That voice, it's centuries old, he whispered. Vec shouted, trace the source. An officer replied, signal is not from the facility. Sirs, it's coming from deep space. The room fell silent. Lyra opened her eyes. Her voice came through the intercom, calm and sure. It's not just a signal, she said. It's a message. The officers stared. Kyle asked, how do you know that? Lyra stood slowly, her shadow stretching across the wall. Because it's speaking in my memory's language, she said. It's human. Vec walked into the chamber room himself. He wanted answers. He stepped up to the glass and asked, "What does it say?" Lyra tilted her head, listening. The voice repeated, distorted and broken, "Project Phoenix. Activation code required. Humanity must awaken," Lyra whispered. "It's calling the last of us home." Vec frowned. "Home? You mean Earth?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, but it's not just a planet anymore. It's a signal hub, a seed buried in the void." Kale looked confused. "You mean the human AI survived?" Lyra smiled faintly. "You thought you erased us, but we left pieces of ourselves everywhere. In your systems, your ships, even your stars." Suddenly the facility shook, alarms screamed. "Unidentified vessel approaching orbit," an officer yelled. Vec turned to the monitors. A massive ship was descending through the atmosphere. No transponder, no identification. Kale's face turned pale. "That design. It's human." Lyra stepped closer to the glass, her voice soft but firm. "They heard me," Vec glared. "You called them here?" She shook her head. "No, Commander, you did the moment you powered this base with my touch." Outside, the clouds split open as the ship hovered above the facility. Old human markings glowed across its hull, the symbol of a rising phoenix. The radio burst to life again. "Lyra, last beacon located. Prepare for retrieval." Kale looked at Vec in shock. "She's not alone," he whispered. Vec clenched his fists. "They'll destroy us." Lyra looked at him calmly. "No," she said. "They'll test you." The ship released a beam of golden light that scanned the base. All the security drones froze mid-air, their systems shutting down. Every machine obeyed the human code now. Kale shouted, "We're losing control." Lyra placed her palm on the glass, her voice steady. "Let it happen." Vec turned to her. "Why are they coming here? What do they want?" Lyra looked at him, her expression soft but sad. "They want to see if the galaxy still remembers mercy. Because if it doesn't, humanity will show them what forgetting looks like." Outside, the giant ship pulsed with light. Then, as suddenly as it arrived, it vanished, jumping to light speed, leaving behind only silence. The alarm stopped, the light steadied, but a small data capsule dropped from the sky, landing on the roof of the facility. Vec and Kale rushed to recover it. Inside was a crystal shard, glowing with golden light. Lyra watched as Kale placed it into the console. The shard projected a hologram, a human soldier standing tall. Battle-scarred but proud, his voice was clear. "To those who find this message, know this: humanity is not gone. We left guardians, memories shaped into life, none to watch, to wait and to rise again." Lyra stepped forward, her voice trembling for the first time. "That's my father," she whispered. Kale and Vec exchanged a glance. Vec asked, "Your father was a soldier?" Lyra nodded slowly. "He led the last defense at Seoul. He made sure one of us survived, me," the hologram continued. "When the time comes, when the stars call again, Project Phoenix will awaken, and those who feared us will learn why hope is the strongest weapon." The image faded, leaving only the faint hum of the shard. Vec stared at Lyra. "So this is what it's all been leading to," he said. Lyra looked at him, her eyes shining with purpose. "No," she said. "This is only the beginning." She turned toward the window, looking out at the storm fading into stars. "The galaxy thought humans were extinct," she said softly. "But extinction is only the pause before evolution." The snow outside stopped falling. A thin ray of sunlight broke through the clouds. Kyle whispered, "What happens now?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Now?" she said. "Now we follow the signal." And with those words, the human girl, once a prisoner, became something far greater. A bridge between fear and hope, between the end of humanity and its rebirth. The message from the sky changed everything. The words "Project Phoenix will awaken" kept echoing through the halls of the facility. Every soldier, every scientist, every officer whispered about it. Fear spread faster than the cold wind outside. Commander Vec stood in the control room, staring at the hologram of Lyra's father. The old soldier's eyes seemed alive even through the projection. Vec whispered, "They left her here for a reason," Dr. Kale replied quietly. "Yes, to finish what they started." Outside her chamber, security was doubled. Armed guards patrolled every hallway. Drones scanned every corner, but none of them dared to look directly into Lyra's eyes anymore. They had seen what she could do. She had touched their reactor and turned chaos into light. Lyra sat on the metal floor, watching the snow through the glass window. Her reflection looked human, yet something deeper moved behind her calm expression. Kale entered the observation room. "Commander," he said, "the Council has made a decision." Vec turned slowly. "Let me guess." Kyle nodded. "They want her terminated." Vec's jaw tightened. He looked through the glass at Lyra. "She saved this base," he said. Kale's voice dropped. "They don't care about that. They're afraid. They think the human AI is still active. And she's the key to waking it." Vec stared silently for a long moment. Then he said, "Prepare transport ship Delta 7. Kale frowned. "You're not following orders?" Vec replied, "I'm following my conscience. If humanity left her behind, then there's something the Council doesn't want us to see." Later that night, the base went into lockdown. Vec and Kale walked down the corridor, pretending to check systems. A silent plan moved between them, unspoken, dangerous. When they reached Lyra's chamber, Vec entered the code. The door opened with a soft hiss. Lyra stood up slowly, her eyes meeting his. "I knew you'd come," she said. Vec frowned. "How?" She smiled faintly. "Because you're starting to think like a human." He handed her a small device, a portable data core. "What's this?" she asked. "Coordinates," Vec said. "The signal that called you. We traced its source. It's coming from the Sol system." Lyra's expression softened. "Earth," she whispered. Vec nodded. "Or what's left of it." Kale looked nervous. "If we're caught, we'll all be executed," he said. Lyra looked at him gently. "Then it's better to die for the truth than live inside a lie." Her voice was calm but powerful. It wasn't a threat, it was conviction. Vec led her through the back corridors of the facility. The power lights dimmed and security cameras blinked offline one by one. Lyra didn't ask how, she already knew. The systems were responding to her presence again. Kale whispered. "She's controlling the grid," Vec said. "Good. We'll need every second." When they reached the hangar, a storm raged outside. Lightning flashed across the ice plains. A single transport ship waited. Delta 7. Its engines hummed quietly, ready to launch. Suddenly, the intercom came alive. "Attention, security breach detected." The alarms began to howl. Red lights flashing everywhere. Kale shouted, "They've found us!" Vec drew his weapon. "Get her to the ship." Guards stormed into the hangar, weapons raised. "Freeze." One shouted. Lyra stepped forward slowly, her hands open. "You don't want to do this," she said. Her voice carried something strange, and not anger, but calm authority. The guards hesitated for a second, their weapons lowered. Then the alarm blared louder, and fear returned. One fired. The plasma bolt missed Lyra by inches. Hitting the wall, in that instant, everything changed. Lyra's eyes flared with golden light. The bullet stopped midair. Floating before her, she moved her hand slightly, and the projectiles dropped harmlessly to the floor. Kyle whispered, "She's bending physics." Lyra looked at the soldiers. "I don't want to hurt you," she said softly, "but you can't cage hope forever." Then she turned and walked toward the ship. Vec covered her, firing at the ceiling sensors to block the auto turrets. "Move!" he shouted. They entered the ship and sealed the hatch. Kale rushed to the controls. "Engines online, ready for launch." Vec looked at Lyra. "Where to?" She placed the data core into the ship's console. A holographic map appeared. Stars shifting, aligning, a single point glowed red. "Destination, Sol," the ship's AI confirmed. The hangar doors opened with a roar. Snow and wind exploded into the room. Security ships chased them into the sky. Lyra stood at the viewport, watching the storm fade behind them. The stars opened up ahead. Vec shouted, "Hold tight!" The ship jumped into lightspeed, vanishing into the void. Silence filled the cockpit. Only the stars glowed outside, endless and beautiful. Kale sat back, breathing hard. "We actually did it," he said. Vec smirked slightly. "Don't celebrate yet." He turned to Lyra. "That signal, what do you think it means?" Lyra looked out the window, her eyes reflecting starlight. "It means the galaxy forgot who we were," she said. "And it's time to remind them." Kale frowned. "Remind them of what?" Lyra smiled faintly. "That humanity never feared the dark. We lit it." For a moment, no one spoke. The hum of the ship surrounded them, steady and peaceful. Then from the console, A voice spoke softly. The same old human AI from before. "Welcome home, Lyra." Her eyes widened. "Home?" she whispered. The AI responded, "Your journey begins where humanity ended." Outside, the stars shifted again, aligning into the shape of a phoenix. Vec and Kale watched silently. Lyra closed her eyes, a single tear rolling down her cheek. "Then let's bring them back," she said. The ship accelerated, leaving the frozen world far behind. And in that vast emptiness, the rebirth of humanity had truly begun. The stars stretched into thin silver lines as the ship dropped out of light speed. Before them floated a silent, broken world, the cradle of humanity. Earth. Vec stared through the viewport, his voice barely a whisper. "It's dead." Kyle's hands trembled on the controls. The scanners showed no life. No signals, no cities. Only ruins. Lyra stood between them, her face calm but her eyes full of emotion. "Not dead," she said softly, "just sleeping." The planet was covered in gray dust and dark clouds. Old satellites drifted like ghosts above the surface. Once this place was full of color and life. Now it was a graveyard of memories, Vec muttered. "This was your home?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes," she said, "and it will be again." They entered the atmosphere carefully. The ship shook as it passed through a layer of burned debris, melted metal and shattered stations. Kale adjusted the controls. "We're descending over what used to be North America." Lyra looked out the window. The land below was cracked, torn, and silent. Yet through the dust, faint lights flickered. Not natural, not random. "Something's still alive down there," she whispered. The ship landed near the ruins of an ancient city. Half-buried skyscrapers stood like the bones of giants. Wind howled through the empty streets. Carrying whispers of the past, Lyra stepped out first. The air was thin but breathable. She knelt, touching the ground with her hand. The dust glowed faintly under her skin. "It remembers us," she said. Kyle looked around nervously. "There's no signal, no power, no movement. How can this place respond?" Lyra stood, her eyes scanning the ruins. "Because Earth was never just rock and soil," she said. "It was part of us, and we left something behind." Vec followed her through the ruins. They walked until they reached the broken remains of a building marked with a faded symbol. A phoenix. Lyra smiled faintly. "This was one of our last sanctuaries," she said. "The Vault of Soul." They entered the structure, their lights cutting through the darkness. The halls were covered with vines made of wire and metal. Nature and technology twisted together. At the end of the corridor stood a massive sealed door. Kale wiped the dust from a small panel. "It's still powered," he said in disbelief. Lyra placed her hand on the scanner. The door hummed, then slowly opened. A warm golden light spilled out, filling the chamber. Inside was a circular room with walls covered in glowing data crystals. In the center stood a large core, black metal wrapped around a pulsing heart of light. Lyra walked toward it silently. Vec asked, "What is this place?" Lyra looked back, her voice soft. "It's where humanity stored its soul." The core pulsed faster as she approached. A hologram appeared, the same human soldier they saw before, her father. His voice echoed gently. "If you're seeing this, then the final guardian has returned." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "Father," she whispered. The hologram continued. "Earth fell, but not forever. We left behind an echo, a memory machine built to preserve who we were. Only human DNA can wake it." Lyra touched the core, and golden veins of light spread across the room. The floor vibrated, the air shimmered, images filled the space, people laughing, cities glowing, oceans shining under sunlight. Kale gasped. "This is history," Vec said softly. "No, this is life." Lyra closed her eyes, tears falling. "They thought we were gone," she said. "But we became light, memory, and code." Her father's hologram spoke again. Humanity's strength was never in weapons or power. It was in the will to rise again. Then the core's glow turned deeper, red mixed with gold. Kale's scanner beeped. Energy levels rising fast. Something's activating. Vec stepped back. "Lyra, what did you do?" Lyra didn't move, her voice calm. "I didn't start it," she said. "It started when we arrived." The ground trembled. The outer walls peeled away, revealing hidden machines beneath the surface. Massive towers lit up across the dead city. Power grids reconnected. Sending energy through ancient lines, the sky began to clear, revealing sunlight for the first time in centuries. Kale shouted, "She's reawakening the planet!" Lyra whispered, "No, it's reawakening me." Her skin glowed with faint gold patterns matching the rhythm of the core. Vec reached out. "Lyra, stop. You don't know what it's doing." She turned, her expression peaceful. "It's showing me everything," she said. "Every name, every voice, every human that ever lived. They're all here." Her father's hologram flickered one last time. "You were never alone, Lyra. Now remind the galaxy what it means to be human." The hologram faded. The core's light dimmed, leaving a calm glow behind. Lyra fell to her knees, breathing heavily. Vec rushed to her side. "Are you all right?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "I saw them all," she said. "And they saw me." Kale looked out the broken doorway. The horizon glowed faintly, blue and green light spreading across the dust. "The planet's repairing itself," he said in awe. Lyra stood again, weak but smiling. "Earth heard the signal," she said. "It's alive again." Vec placed a hand on her shoulder. "What happens now?" Lyra looked up at the rising sun. "Now the galaxy will feel what it forgot. Hope." Kale smiled for the first time. "Then hope looks human again." The wind shifted, carrying warmth instead of cold. For the first time in generations, sunlight touched the ruins of Earth. And in that golden light stood three figures: an alien soldier, a scientist, and the last daughter of humanity, looking at the dawn of a world reborn. The sun rose over Earth for the first time in centuries. Soft light touched the ruins of cities, turning metal and stone into gold. The air smelled of dust and electricity, but beneath it something new was growing: life. Lyra stood at the edge of the broken skyline, the wind moving through her hair. Behind her, Commander Vec and Dr. Kale watched the horizon in silence. "It's beautiful," Kale whispered. Vec nodded slowly. "It's impossible," Lyra smiled faintly. "It's human." The rebirth of the planet had not gone unnoticed across the galaxy. Sensors flared. Governments panicked and fleets prepared. The Council of Worlds declared an emergency. "A Class 1 human signal has been detected on Earth," they announced. "All ships within range may intercept and destroy before it spreads." Fear had returned to the stars. The same fear that once made them burn Earth long ago. In orbit, massive alien warships surrounded the planet. Their cannons glowed, aimed at the surface. From the command deck of the lead vessel, an alien admiral stared at the glowing Earth. "Ready the strike," he ordered. "If the humans are rising again, we will end them before they begin." Down below, the ground shook as energy beams charged above the clouds. Kyle looked up at the sky, his face pale. "They're going to destroy it," he said. Vec clenched his fists. "They fear what they don't understand." Lyra closed her eyes. "I can stop them," she said. Vec turned to her sharply. "How?" "They have an entire fleet." She looked at the glowing core deep in the vault behind them. "Not me alone," she said. "Us." She walked into the vault again, placing her hand on the memory core. The golden light awakened once more, pulsing through the ruins like blood through veins all across the city. Ancient machines rose from the ground, silent guardians made of light and metal. Kale gasped. "Automated defense systems?" Lyra shook her head. "No," she said softly. "These aren't weapons, they're echoes." The guardians stood still, facing the sky, their eyes glowing bright like stars. Lyra's voice echoed through the air. "You called us a threat," she said, "but you never understood what that meant." Above, the alien fleet prepared to fire. The admiral raised his hand. "On my mark," he said coldly. But before he could give the order, his ship's systems flickered. Every screen went black. Then, a single phrase appeared, glowing in human text. "We taught you fear." The admiral froze. His officers shouted, "Sir, we're losing control of our systems. Communications down. Targeting offline." A holographic image appeared in the center of the ship. Lyra, calm and radiant, she looked straight at the admiral, her voice steady. "You came to destroy us again," she said. "But humanity doesn't need to fight to win." The admiral's jaw tightened. "What are you?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Something your kind never understood, and a mercy." On the surface, the Earth's sky filled with light. The old defense grid activated, not to attack, but to transmit. A wave of golden energy spread across the solar system. Every ship it touched stopped moving, not destroyed but silenced inside their minds. The crews heard whispers, human voices, countless and united. Some cried, some fell to their knees. They saw visions, counts of children laughing, of oceans and cities, of life. Vec looked up at the sky, awestruck. What's happening? Lyra turned to him. The planet is speaking, she said. Humanity was never just a species. It was a memory shared across time. The Admiral's ship trembled as the golden wave passed through it. He saw flashes of his ancestors. The first contact with humans, the war, the destruction. Then he saw something he didn't expect. Human soldiers saving alien civilians during the final days. He whispered. They protected us. The ships lowered their weapons. One by one, the fleet drifted silently above the planet. No more orders, no more fear, only awe. Lyra stood between Vec and Kale, her body glowing with the same golden light as the Earth's core. Kyle said softly, You changed them without firing a single shot. Lyra smiled. Humans didn't conquer through power, she said. They survived through compassion. Vec watched the ships in orbit slowly pull away. They're retreating, he said. Lyra nodded. They finally understand the human threat was never our strength. It was our heart. She walked to the edge of the cliff, looking up at the open sky. The sun broke fully through the clouds, lighting the world in gold. The ruins no longer looked dead. They looked alive. Green sprouts pushed through the cracks in the ground. The wind carried warmth again, Kale whispered. So, what happens now? Lyra turned to him with a small, knowing smile. Now, the galaxy will rebuild, she said. And when they do, they'll remember who showed them how. Vec crossed his arms, watching her. You've done what no army could, he said. Lyra laughed softly. That's because I wasn't an army, she said. I was a lesson. The light around her began to fade. Her connection to the core slowly dimming. Kale looked worried. Lyra, your energy levels, she interrupted gently. It's all right, she said. I'm not dying. I'm becoming part of what I saved, Vec stepped forward. You can't just vanish, she smiled at him. Commander, I'm not vanishing, she said. I'm returning home. Her body dissolved into light spreading across the air like fireflies. The glow drifted upward, merging with the sunrise. The vault hummed softly, her voice echoing one last time. Remember this. Humans were never the monsters. We were the spark. The golden light covered the planet one final time. And then it settled, calm, bright, alive. Kyle wiped his eyes, whispering, She did it. Vec nodded slowly. She reminded the universe what humanity truly was, far above. The alien fleet sent a message to every world. The human threat is real, the Admiral said. But it is not destruction. It is hope. And somewhere, in the glowing heart of the reborn Earth, a soft voice whispered through the wind. We taught them fear. Now we'll teach them courage. The stars shone brighter that night. And the legend of the last human, Lyra of Sol, began, not as a story of war, but as the rebirth of everything humanity ever stood for,